Okay, let's get started with uh why have I lost my train of thoughts? We're gonna get started with our homework starter for chapter 17. And it would really help if I would share my screen. All right, so chapter 17, question one says Shakti Company budgets overhead costs of $72,000 for the year. The company reports the following for its standard and deluxe models. And it tells us our cost per unit, standard, deluxe, direct materials, $12 for standard, $23 for deluxe, direct labor, $18 for standard, $27 for deluxe. And then it says compute a single plant-wide overhead rate, assuming the company allocates overhead costs based on 6,000 direct labor hours. Part two says the standard model uses 2 direct labor hours per unit, and the deluxe model uses 3 direct labor hours per unit. Compute overhead costs per unit for each model. And then part four says complete the total product cost per unit for both models. And the total product cost would be your direct materials, your direct labor, and your overhead. So let's get started. Compute a single plant-wide overhead rate, assuming the company allocates overhead costs based on 6,000 direct labor hours. So in order to do this, we're going to start with our um, select numerator, which is going to be our total budgeted overhead costs. So I'm going to put that here. Divide that by my select denominator, which is my total budgeted direct labor hours. And the question tells me my total budgeted overhead costs right here. My total budgeted overhead cost is 72,000. And it tells me that my total budgeted direct labor hours, the allocation is 6,000. So I'm going to divide that by 6,000. And that's going to give me, when I divide those two numbers, I'm getting my calculator, 72,000 divided by 6,000. It's going to give me $12, and that's $12 per direct labor hour because it's allocated based on direct labor hours. So it's $12 per direct labor hour. For part two, it says the standard model uses 2 direct labor hours per unit, and the deluxe model uses 3 direct labor hours per unit. Compute overhead costs per unit for each model. So I'm going to put my standard here. I'm going to put my deluxe. I know that my plant wide overhead rate, I just calculated that, is $12 for both models. And this is per direct labor hour. This is actually it's $12, yeah, per direct labor hour. Per direct labor hour. I was thinking per unit, but it's $12 per direct labor hour per unit. So the hours per unit, it tells me that for standard, it takes 2 hours. For deluxe, it takes three. I'm going to put two here. I'm going to put three here. So I'm going to multiply my 12 by my two, and that's going to give me $24 per unit. And my 12 by my three is going to give me $36 per unit. So for every unit of standard model that I produce, I'm going to allocate $24 of overhead costs to that unit. For every unit of the deluxe model that I produce, I'm going to allocate $12 of overhead costs. Sorry, I'm going to allocate $36 of overhead costs per unit. Okay. Last, compute the total product cost per unit for both models. So my total product cost is going to be my materials, my labor, and my overhead. So my standard and my deluxe, my direct materials costs for my standard. If you see here, it tells me it's 12. My direct labor for my standard is 18. And I just calculated my overhead at 24. So when I add those numbers together, I should get a total of $54, sorry, $54 of product cost. My deluxe now, my direct materials are 18. My, sorry, my direct materials are 23. My direct labor is 27. And my overhead is 36. So when I add those three numbers together, I should get a total of 86. And that's how you solve this question. Thank you.